Okay, so now we're into the rebuttals. So first, the affirmative team will have 3 minutes, and you guys can start now.
The con team holds that plastic manufacturers should not be held accountable for dangers caused by BPA exposure from their products when these dangers are disclosed beforehand. We assert that these dangers were not disclosed adequately in this case. In fact, a 2014 study published in the Asian Journal of Andrology conducted a thorough review of all different kinds of endocrine disruptors and their effects on the human body. It was found in this review that BPA can leach into foods from plastic after repeated exposure to high temperatures or pHs. And also that the EU already strictly regulates these products for these reasons, with particular focus on the plastic used in baby bottles, which is relevant in this case due to the damage caused to offspring of the next generation. The con team has also asserted that companies should not be held liable for specific defects that were not known beforehand, and that any number of injuries that could have resulted from these cases were not predictable. However, there is legal precedent for holding companies liable to damages caused by BPA or related compounds that leach from their plastic products, or in the case of McMahon versus Eli Lilly, from a drug that was administered to mothers, which then caused birth defects and deaths in the third generation. In that case, courts held that even though specific injuries could not be predicted beforehand, that the company should still be held responsible.
In response to the con's argument, most companies will most likely know what the negative effects of BPA are because of the research that's been done, but either choose not to put it on the packaging or say nothing at all. At the very least, they need to say this is not microwavable, so you need to be warned that BPA leaches when it's microwaved. The dangers were not disclosed. The BPA is also regulated in 11 FDA regulations. There is no excuse for keeping BPA legal. They should have to invest into research for better substitutes, not necessarily cheaper ones. There also needs to be a warning about safe use of microwaving. And then in closing the argument, there's also a moral question involved for future generations. It would be the court's moral responsibility to, at the very least, prevent them from using BPA in their plastic production.
All right, so that was the protein. Let me reset the timer. All right, so now the con team will give their rebuttal, and you can start now.
While the protein certainly has a high moral regard within society, the issue of today's debate is liability, not necessarily morality. When we look at the issue at hand, the protein has argued repeatedly that BPA is dangerous. This is not something that the con team is trying to refute, but what we're addressing at hand here is the issue of liability. Study after study has been presented showing that BPA is dangerous and toxins can leach into food, which then affects human beings. But it's not the manufacturers who are liable. Who is liable, though, is the federal government and the FDA and the EPA, who are responsible for allowing these products to continue to exist in the marketplace. While the manufacturers may have a moral liability, they don't have a legal liability until the federal government changes how they regulate its products. So when it comes to the issue of liability, we must see that the con team is more favorable in terms of today's debate. The issue is that manufacturers aren't liable, it's the federal government and the users of these products who become liable for any dangers at hand. However, we also have to address the issue of moral consequentialism if the protein continues to argue with this idea that the most moral action is going to be the best action. And if we consider today's debate to be more favorable in terms of the protein and BPA is considered to be a dangerous product used in the marketplace and the manufacturers become liable, then what will happen is a change in the marketplace and companies will be encouraged to remove BPA out of their products. But this isn't safe, nor is it moral, because BPA only becomes replaced with more dangerous products, such as BPS, which has gone largely unstudied compared to BPA. And the studies that do this show that it is more dangerous potentially than BPA. So when it comes to the issue of morality, and if we consider that to be a voting issue in today's debate, then it's also favorable for the con team, because we cannot allow more dangerous products to exist in the marketplace. Yes, BPA is dangerous, and we're not trying to argue that, But what we're simply saying is that the manufacturers cannot be held liable. It's the federal government.
All right, so that was the rebuttal from the con team, and that concludes our debate.